Hello and welcome to Don's Trust Election 2024 Meet the Candidates. My name is Graham Stacey and in this session we are meeting Martin Drake. Hello Martin.
Hi Graham.
Hiya. Could you please tell us a bit about yourself and why we should vote for you in around 2 minutes, please?
Thank you. My name's Martin Drake. I've been a Wimbledon fan since '91. I was involved in the protest season, selling yellow and blue and sending in terrible photos to be used for it. I believe that's when I may have first met you, Graham, or know about you. When we set the club up and trust up, I was involved in the working groups. I was on the finance group and we helped do the share issue and the first Don's Trust bonds and also the 5-year season tickets. And all those together meant we could buy Kings Meadow, which that's based us everything we've done since then. I also helped steward and turnstile, and I actually miss doing operational stuff at Kings Meadow because we had a great friendly team in the cash office there doing stuff. And I think we've lost a bit as a club moving from there to Plough Lane because it's so much bigger and we're more professional, which is a good thing. But I think we lost a bit. So why I'm standing now really is I'm lucky enough I've got the time to do this job properly and put this enough time into it and basically do it justice. I feel a lot of people, we've had so many people really good people who've gone on the board and burnt out and not able to do it. Whereas I know I've got the energy, enthusiasm, possibly from after having 3 kids and having a high powered job. It's actually quite nice now to think I could put a lot of time into this and give my best shot. So yeah, I think compared to some other candidates, I say I've got the time, but I think I'll bring a better, fresher approach to it. I'm sort of quite honest in what I'm say. A lot of people who know me say I'm probably too honest sometimes, but I think we seem to be getting a lot of more division and disunity than we had before, possibly because we haven't got that obvious thing to fight anymore. We had a big wrong to right, and we've done that, and the other lot are irrelevant to us now, really. But what do we do now? Where do we go from now? We've got a great ground, we've got a great setup. There's loads of problems we've got. So where do we see us going? Do we want to be a big club in London? Do we want to be a community asset? There seem to be a lot of conflicts where we're going, and everyone wants a different thing. So I think it's an interesting time to be involved when we're sort of like not a teenage club, but we're now in the 20s where you think, what the hell are we doing with our lives? So that's
just on 2 minutes, Martin.
Perfect, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to the 5 questions that we're asking of each candidate. Question number 1. What would be your plan to plug the club's £1 to £2 million annual losses? They were reported as a 1.5 million net loss in 2023, for example.
Okay, well, I say we're not be running the club. So I think when it comes to profitability and losses, it's very difficult to say what we would do personally. I have been involved in projects and businesses where you absolutely have to keep total control of costs. That's probably our first thing. I think we're doing that. The biggest problem we've got is we're in an industry where people spend more than they've got and they go bust. Now, because of our history, we cannot let that happen. So all we can really do to try and bridge that gap is improve our asset, Plough Lane, increase the capacity, increase the usage of it out of match days, grow every part of the club. So that's all the youth teams, everything that gets more engagement. That won't address this hole. But we've also got the issue where we should only spend what we've got. So we should never make a profit. If we ever sell more players and make that money, we should go on investing that in the club. And that's unlike a lot of other clubs. So I think longer term, we will do better. But it just feels at the moment we're running to stand still. So the other thing that comes up with the profitability is we have got a regulator hopefully coming in. I think the problem with that, as Chris Stewart has mentioned, is if it just ends up giving all the lower league clubs more money, it's not going to help us because it'll just get the same players pay more money. Whereas what we need, the holy grail for us, is some way where better run and governed clubs who can prove they have a good, honest, sustainable business record will get some more money. How that works or how that benefits us, we don't know yet. But that's the only way long term we can address that issue. So until then, we're always going to be playing catch up with the clubs that spend money they haven't got, because they're happy to go bust and we're not.
Great. Okay, thank you. Question number 2. If you could change one thing about the Don's Trust, what would it be and why?
That's a great question. If you mean the whole trust, I think we've probably done it, which is increasing the membership. I know it's contentious giving it to people who maybe don't want to be members because just they're season ticket holders. But I know a lot of people you just meet at games and chat to, or especially away games. I've been to a couple like Newcastle game, and they're not really aware of what the trust are for. And talking to Gary earlier, he's saying, I've only been involved last few years because the what was on the pitch was terrible. And so I think the best thing we can do long term, make us sustainable and grow, is to have as many people involved as possible, rightly or wrongly. I don't think you can say the right people are people who've bought a trust membership, or the right people are people who are just interested in football. I think we need all of us, which has been our strength since day one. We've never been one rich bloke. We've never been a load of fans, in a pub moaning about everything. We've always been a mixture. So what I would really change is keep growing that. I put in my manifesto, I'd like us to have some sort of affiliate membership where we can have other community groups and other sports clubs, anything that can be more involved in us and grow us organically. So in terms of what I change about us as a trust, I think we probably all need to be less paranoid, because as we've seen from some of the last few discussions, we have people, really good people with a lot of thought, thinking opposite things. I've heard people say they're fully against restricted actions because they restrain us and we don't know what's going to happen in the future. And I've heard people saying they want even more, we can't do anything without going through 90% or 100% of votes. And they're both right, but I just wish we'd be a bit less paranoid. I don't believe there are loads of people out there trying to get us. We still be careful and wary, but I don't think we are. So maybe all of us could learn as a trust and as a club just to relax a bit.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Question number 3. Could you summarise your stance on fan ownership and how you think we can thrive as a club under the current fan ownership model?
That's a good question. I think if you know the history, I was involved with the share issue when we first did it, where we went from 100% owned, or it was a limited company, to the PLC where we had 75% of the votes because the extra shares had 3 votes, not 1. That was just done at the time because there were concerns about minority shareholders. It's become sort of set in stone that that's what we have to do. And I felt until the summer that that's what we had to do, that I would never be dissuaded. I'd love us to be 100% fan owned. And in many ways we are, because most of the people who own shares, including Nick Robertson and Anath, who've come in, they're fans and they get very little out of their investment. So I think going forward, I'd love us to go more into that way. But I also want to give us the flexibility that the work and support have gone in this year to do this vote on 50% plus 1. That's what other clubs do who are just successful as well. And we may never need it. So I see being sustainable long term is have the flexibility. And the other big thing I'm keen on is we're a people business, the club and the trust. No matter how many rules or restricted actions or votes we think we've got, if we haven't got good, honest people who are prepared to enforce them or understand them even, then we go nowhere. So our biggest issue long term is apathy and people are not wanting to engage and involved. Uncontested elections, 50 people at a meeting. So if we can get that moving more, and I think the trust, we all need to get out there and talk about the trust more. But yeah.
Right. Okay. Question number 4. How would you describe the trust's standing amongst members at the moment, and how would you seek to improve that relationship?
I think it continues what I just said, really, which is we need to communicate better. I think there have been these issues recently. They seem to be big issues online, but when you get people in a room, it's surprising how similar we all are. We've had this unifying event 20 years ago, and we're still living off that, really. But I think we need to find a way where you can agree or disagree, with all the same thing in mind. I mean, your member resolutions were really good because they got a really good level of engagement. We shouldn't have to do that. We shouldn't have to people to feel there's a problem for them to do that. But maybe that's what life is like. And this is a bit like with our issue, say with diversity, is that you can't make people do stuff, but you can just open the door for them. It's up to them to come in. You should always try. So I think as a trust, what we really need to do is trust board members should definitely be out there on match days, not just in a kiosk. We should be out there with some visible shut sign, talking to as many people as possible, explaining what we do. And that, I think that would help. Just personal communication helps stop a lot of this sort of strange conspiracy theories or ideas people get about one person's ideas when they're probably not even true. So I think the more of that, the more communication, the better. My wife's a speech therapist and she's obsessed with proper communication like this, whereas we're all terrible tapping away, and that doesn't go anywhere really.
Right. Okay, question number 5, following on from that, do you believe the trust board is elected to make decisions for the members, or elected to listen to members on an ongoing basis? And would you be looking to consult members more or less?
That's a good question as well. I think both is the obvious answer, which is I think you have to have a leadership role. When we had the issue recently with 50%, it's great that people on the board disagreed, but it also caused confusion, I think, with other people who maybe not as engaged. And the issue with proxy votes, people want to be told what to do. They haven't got the time to go through all this stuff. They want to elect people, like with our members of parliament, elect people who represent them but make decisions. You can't come back to everything with people. This decision, obviously, we should come back to membership, the 50%, because that's a really important vote. And it's good to see we've reached the turnout, even if you don't agree or have strong feelings either way. It's good that more engagements happened. So I think it's more, I don't know, I think we need to sort of find that balance. We haven't got that balance right about engagement with the membership broadly and what we decide on. I'd love us to bring back some more football type things, like have part of the football staff at some of our meetings, because I think they'll get more people there. If we had Craig Cope at a Don's Trust meeting talk about how that works in football, how, you know, his new IT system he wants to check players, wouldn't that be great? I think you get a whole different tranche of people wanting to come along. So I think we need to think a bit more, be flexible about it. I don't think we should tie ourselves to doing one thing or the other.
Great. Okay, thank you. That's the 5 questions. We're now asking each candidate one question directly related to your manifesto. I have 3 minutes to answer. So in your manifesto, one of your key principles is to lead negotiations to improve football's governance, fix its broken financial model, and always consider things from the fans' perspective. So just to follow up on that, how would you put this into action? Would it detract from your focus on Don's Trust matters?
Yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that, because that's obviously a massive thing to do, and it's not something I could do or even we could do. But I do feel when we had the decision 20 years ago, we thought football would be improved. I think we had dreams of like being a fan-owned league, you know, and fan stadium and all this sort of stuff. And of course, it hasn't happened. If anything, football's got worse. You've got more speculators. You've got sports washing. This is something I see Fair Game doing with Niall Cooper and going through the bill at the moment in the House of Commons. I think what we can do is set an example, but you're right, we don't want to distract this from what we want as a club. We may end up wanting to help football, but it'll harming our actual club. We're lucky to be in the league where we get a benefit from a lot of this stuff, but if we're out of the league, we might find, you know, we wouldn't be able to do it anymore. So I think lead negotiations is probably too much, but I just feel we're not doing enough of that. And I think we benefit from getting more involved. I know it frustrates some people that they see how well we're doing and they pat us on the head and say, well, aren't they a great little club? But they don't want to listen to what we say. We're not out there lobbying harder for the changes we know will help us. And this links back to the idea that we're never going to fix the profitability of the club if we don't address the bigger issue in football, which is money at the top being just thrown away or taken out of the game by speculators like the Glazers. So until we address that and really try and lobby and show an example of that, we can't really fix it.
Great. Right, well, that concludes our questioning. Thank you for your time, Martin. All the best with your campaign. Just to viewers, you can watch all candidate interviews on our YouTube channel. To vote, you should have a link in your inbox as a member. Deadline to vote is December the 3rd, and you can find all candidate manifestos at thedonstrust.org. So for now, thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Graham.